Alright, what's up guys? Thanks for checking out my channel. My name is John. Today I'm going to be doing a video about my settings for shooting more cinematic footage on the Sony A6300 or Sony A6500. Whichever you may be shooting, they're pretty similar cameras. Alright, so first thing we're going to jump into is which file type you're going to be recording in. So basically I do all my shooting in 4K or 1080 at 120. I do my 4K at 24 frames per second, and I kind of bounce back and forth between these two depending on what I'm shooting. I try to mostly shoot at 4K whenever I can because I crop it down into a 1080 sequence and it reduces any grain or anything that you're going to see in the footage. Any little blemishes in the footage are much less noticeable. So how you do that is you can just go into your menu, head over to the little camera icon and choose file format XAVC-S 4K or XAVC-S HD. XAVC-S HD is where you're going to find your 120 footage, and again I would avoid this as much as you can unless you know you're going to be using slow-mo for something, because you just don't get as good of files and you don't get as good of quality as video as you would with 4K. And then for 4K, you just head up to the 4K icon and choose 24p at 100 megabits per second, and from my experience that's the best quality video you can really get out of this camera. Alright, so since I do most of my shooting without a second person, I like to do a lot of autofocus stuff, especially when I'm using my Ronin. I always shoot autofocus, and the autofocus on this camera is insanely fast and insanely accurate, especially with its eye tracking and face recognition. So the focus mode that I usually use, you're gonna go over to the third menu under the little camera icon. So you're gonna go over to focus mode. I always shoot continuous autofocus because, like I said, the autofocus in this camera is insanely good. So once you've selected your focus mode, I like to go over to focus area and choose either zone or flexible spot M. This means you can move the focus point all around on the screen, and the Sony A6300 will track it with its incredible autofocus. One other big thing I like to do with my focus is go over to the fourth menu under the camera and choose autofocus drive speed. I like to set this to fast. I've had really great luck with this. Same with autofocus tracking, I like to set that to high. I've never been able to utilize autofocus before, but this camera has really opened my eyes to the beauty of autofocus. So as far as picture profiles go, I like to use either S-Log2 or S-Log3. If I'm shooting 120 and it's a little bit dark, I like to use S-Log2 because S-Log3 and even S-Log2 are both pretty notorious for producing a little bit of grainy footage. But if I'm just shooting normally, I like to shoot S-Log3. You get a really flat profile with a lot of dynamic range, and you can really get some beautiful footage out of this camera. And really flexible footage too. So white balance is another big one in producing cinematic footage. You're always going to want to leave your white balance in a locked mode. So if you have auto white balance going, it's going to be changing its white balance throughout the shot, and it's going to be nearly impossible to correct in post. Your colors are going to be changing temperatures, changing tints, all those things. So in order to keep consistent footage, what you're going to want to do is open up your white balance options and go over to white balance. There's a number of options that you can choose: cool, white, incandescent, a bunch of different options you can choose. If you don't have a steady white balance, like I said, your colors are going to be constantly changing and your footage is going to be nearly unusable. So yeah, that just about wraps up everything that I personally do when shooting cinematic footage on the Sony A6300. I'm sure a lot of other people do this slightly differently, and you're going to figure out what works best for you. The more you go out and shoot and the more you go out and play with this camera. This is a beautiful camera. It can really produce some beautiful footage if you know what you're doing with it. So if you enjoyed this video or have any further questions for me, it'd be awesome if you'd let me know in the comments below, or else leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. Alright, thanks for watching. Hope to catch you later.